as women, we've gone through different stages in our evolution of really trying to get an equal standing in business with men. And we still have a lot of work to do, but we're also trying to find our way. And so it used to be that our value truly was around our fertility and could we have babies, right? Like that's historically, and we go even back to tribal culture. And so I think this is part of the reason why we struggle. And in business, I think business has been taught and modeled in a very masculine model. And I know you talk about this too, the comparison and the competition, and there's only one space at the top of the mountain. And so I think as women entrepreneurs, when we realize we can use our what we would say feminine energies. I don't want to necessarily say feminine traits, but energies like intuition and collaboration and working together. This is where we're going to have breakthroughs and really defining our own version. Like, what does success look for us? Not what has it look like? And we get to redefine it individually as women in business and how we relate to money.
Hello, my extraordinary women friends. Happy April. March was filled with several speaking gigs for me, mastermind meetings, podcasting, launching a new brand upgrade. Check out my website that quietly got a fresh facelift last month. And we launched a new virtual business retreat event, Extraordinary Women Prosper, which will be held in May. And on top of this, I had a record-breaking first quarter. And as I reflect back on the month, I'm amazed that even with all of this, I had space for vacation. I had white space on my calendar and breathing room to make sure that I was taking care of me. I was exercising, I was meditating, I was doing all the right things. And I can attribute that to a great team, to good processes, to solid messaging strategies and business planning that set up this year with intention. I have been intent on creating a business with time prosperity and wealth prosperity. And when I look at the beginning of this year, I feel a sense of, yes, we're doing something right. It's refreshing. And I share this because it didn't happen by happenstance. It happened with intention. I've put a lot of work behind the scenes to get us to this point. And it's the right business model. It's the right messaging. It's the right visibility. It's voice, it's vision, it's visibility, the foundation that I teach and the foundation that I apply in my own business. I'm going to be sharing these foundations at my upcoming Extraordinary Women Prosper online business retreat in May, a full day of sharing some of my best and newest teachings in the world of creating more time and wealth prosperity in your business. If you'd like to learn more, jump out to CamiGellner.com/prosper and get all the details. I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to raise up the voice, the vision, and the visibility of 1 million women to help them grow their businesses, and Prosper is a part of that vision for me. I hope you'll join me. And speaking of prosperity, today's guest builds on this theme. Dr. Kelly Martin Schuh is a dynamic worth and wealth alchemist who is transforming the lives of female entrepreneurs around the globe. Her expertise in energy medicine and human design for prosperity empowers women to align with their unique abilities and claim their self-worth, unlocking their full potential for abundance. She's an amazing best-selling author, international keynote speaker, and Yahoo Finance top biz coach in 2021. Dr. Kelly is passionate about igniting a woman's worth worldwide movement that's all about turning your gifts into gold. You see, we're kind of aligned. You're going to love her. Let's meet Dr. Kelly Schuh. Welcome to Extraordinary Women Radio, Kelly. It is so great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's like such a great opportunity. You and I have known each other for a while, and now we finally get into hearing some of your stories and hearing some of your wisdom. So I'm super thrilled that you're here. And I want to start with your story. So what was it that had you, how did you become a worth and wealth alchemist?
Yeah, so it is, I will make it succinct, a succinct story, because doctor comes from chiropractor. So I was a chiropractor for many years. And when I was pregnant with my daughter, I had a condition that was like morning sickness on steroids that lasted way longer than the first trimester. And so during that time, I sent all of my patients to a colleague of mine. And while literally like my probably 10th time staring down a toilet bowl for a day, and I realized the icon says church, I'm thinking, oh no, this is not what I thought church was like. I had a great awakening. and that awakening was that I really knew that I could only serve so many people a day by putting my hands on them in chiropractic.
Yeah. One person at a time.
One person at a time. Yeah. And so there was this thing called the internet back then. And so I had this brilliant idea of what would it look like to be able to serve more people using the internet. And that's where my journey began online, was that great awakening. And so fast forward, I had a really successful business working with women in health and wellness. I had a community that I created. I wrote the book. I did all the things. But after 4 years, I was actually still broke. I was still broke. The first 5 years in coaching, I was broke. And I was broke, but not broken. And so my turning point happened. I think it was the fourth coach that I had at one time. And I was about to quit because we had a mortgage to pay, and I had my daughter. She was 5. And I was at my ends. And my coach said, I challenge you to double your rates. And my stomach got queasy. And I thought she was crazy. And I love a good challenge. And she said, I challenge you. What's the worst that could happen? And I said, I guess nobody signs up. And that was really a turning point for me. I went from being $130,000 in debt and struggling month to month to really turning inward and becoming the woman, the CEO, the 6-figure CEO that I had always dreamed of. And so now I model that for women. So it was my own personal journey, and now helping women.
I love that was like the coach just said, go double those rates. And it's so often it's like women have this fear around raising rates. And, that's it's really funny. My husband will tell stories. We had a contractor that was doing work for us, and he doesn't have a very good business model. Like, he's not a very good business person. And he's like, my husband's like, he really needs a business coach. He needs somebody helping him do all these sorts of things. He says, but I don't want it to be you, because you will make his rates go up.
Oh, like that's such a bad thing, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. But it's funny, because that is something that, I think when we can really own the value that we bring to the people that we serve and understand the value that we create. And that's what you did there, right? It's like you really transformed that. What was that journey of stepping into that new price point?
Yeah, I think part of the journey is the realization is that I do think that so many women have what I call the worthiness wound or the lack pattern, where we're really comfortable with giving. And we give, but we're really challenged by receiving. And I think my first deep dive lesson in worthiness was around my love life and finding my husband. And that was the first breakthrough. But this was another thing. This is like how we relate directly to money. And so what I ended up, one of the first things I did is I really looked inward of like the investigation of who is this woman? Like, what would she need to believe? What would she need to do on a regular basis? So I really did a mining of the gold of, and really, I remember Tony Robbins saying once, I created this man that you see on stage. And it didn't happen by accident. So I did my own deep dive investigation of who was this woman a year out, 5 years out, that I would need to stand energetically in from that day forward. And so I built out kind of a blueprint, which I now call the worthiness triad. And we build this out for women. And it's a deep dive investigation of like, who do you need to be to acquire the business and the life of your dreams? Because it's not, the money alone will never make you happy.
Yeah. That's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's really stepping into that person that we already are, but allowing the expansion to happen around us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And for me, there is a strong energetic component. And so I do help women. I tell women that I help them align with their gifts and turn them into gold, because it's an alignment issue. So I still kind of do the chiropractic energetically of alignment, because the gifts are already there. We just need to kind of uncover them and remind them of how powerful they are.
And I didn't realize that this alignment between your work and my work until until I started looking at all of your work because, when I am helping clients build their brand, we're building it from the inside out and we're doing
Yes.
that inner work. And when they're stretching into stepping onto stages or getting visible, we're doing it from the inside out. So I love that you're helping women align to their worth, if you will, and be able to do that from the inside out. So beautiful.
Thank you.
So what is it about women entrepreneurs and when it comes to this money and self-worth challenge that we see so often? I mean, I see it in my clients, I see it all the time. So what is that? What happens? I mean, why do we have that?
Yeah. Well, I think when we look historically, I think we as women have a relatively new history with money. And what I mean by that is historically, money and assets were owned by men. And so the way that you would access money was through your father and then maybe your husband or an uncle. Like it wasn't even until the 70s in America that a woman could have her own checking account or bank account without the signature of a man.
Right.
So when you look at that history,
It's crazy, right?
It's crazy.
I mean, because I didn't realize that back in the day when I was at that age. I didn't realize that was a thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think it's multi-generational as women. We've gone through different stages in our evolution of really trying to get an equal standing in business with men. And we still have a lot of work to do, but we're also trying to find our way. And so it used to be that our value truly was around our fertility and could we have babies, right? Like that's historically, and we go even back to tribal culture. And so I think this is part of the reason why we struggle. And in business, I think business has been taught and modeled in a very masculine model. And I know you talk about this too, the comparison and the competition, and there's only one space at the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
And so I think as women entrepreneurs, when we realize we can use our what we would say feminine energies. I don't want to necessarily say feminine traits, but energies like intuition and collaboration and working together. This is where we're going to have breakthroughs and really defining our own version. Like, what does success look for us? Not what has it look like? And we get to redefine it individually as women in business and how we relate to money.
Yeah, I so love that because I feel like we've been going through this journey, this transformation. We've been called to step into, a different way of being. And this is really starting to own that light inside of us, the strength inside of us to be able to make an impact. So it's so beautiful. And I know that part of your work is around human design and it's around the energy work. Tell us more about why those modalities really work well in this.
Yeah. So for years, one of the modalities that I used was the disc analysis. And that was a great way for me to understand where is somebody coming from the standpoint of how do they do success and how do they get off their alignment under stress. And so that was the model that I used to use. And then many years ago, I got introduced to this thing called human design. And it is based on 4 ancient traditions. So it has astrology in it. It has the Kabbalah. It has the I Ching, and I'm forgetting one. Oh, and the Hindu Brahmin energy centers are associated with it. So it's kind of like all the best.
All of that. I totally didn't know that.
It's so cool. And so I never really studied astrology. A lot of people who find human design have been studying astrology for a while. And what I discovered, so when I had my first reading, it was years ago, and it was actually when I was still in residency in medical school. And I had somebody who gifted me with a chart reading. The first time I got the chart reading, it was a printout. And so it was kind of akin to going and getting lab results, and the doctor says, here are your results. And you're like, I don't know what high calcium means. Like, you have no idea. There's no real interpretation. And so that first experience, that was back in 2004, it didn't resonate with me because it was just a printout. And people can find human design. You can get a printout online for free.
Yeah, and I've done that and then had that same experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it really takes someone to look at it. I mean, you could get a PhD in human design chart readings, like looking at it through the lens of what does this mean? Mm-hmm. And so fast forward, I really discovered of like, wow, this really makes sense. And I felt honored that someone could see my gifts by looking at this chart. And so it was a reclamation, truly. And so now having that, not every woman's meant to build her business the same way. And so I can look at a chart and say, hey, you know, you're designing it this way and you're not making the money. Well, this is because you're more designed for group work, for example, right? And so it really is, it's like looking at someone's fingerprint and you reflect back to them and they have a lot of head shake like, wow, okay, and it helps them feel more confident, but making sure they're building the right business based on
I love
their
that.
design.
I totally love that because we're always building, you know, from that inside out, right? So we've been talking about that, but this is a way that you can really see through a lens in a different way. And then the energy work that you work in, that to me is like, you know, I talk about the R factor, how we resonate, the energy that we walk into a room, and how do we take care of our energy? How do you help your clients work with their energy in the world of abundance?
Yes. So there's many different ways. I've been very gifted in I see energy, I hear things. A lot of times animals speak to me. I know this sounds crazy, but I use animal medicine.
It doesn't
in
seem
my
crazy to me at
practice.
all, or our listeners, because
Right. I say TWW, and TWW is the woo works, right?
it
So
totally does.
it's TWW. So so it could be anything from teaching healthy energetic boundaries. Like what are some practices that you could do? So it could be a simple meditation.
Yeah.
I also use shamanic journeying. I use cacao. Cacao, which is which my daughter is like, that's just fancy hot chocolate. I'm like, yeah, you're right, it is. But really accessing that intuition, and sometimes I'll see energy blocks, right? I'll be like, okay, how are you feeling in your heart right now? Because I'm feeling some contraction, and so it's an exploration of what is the body doing, and or I'll be on a call and I'll say, you need to breathe now. You're not breathing.
Yeah.
So it's a number of different things. So no longer do I have to get my hands on people. I can do it with
You
sound
can
and
still
really
feel.
listening. Feel it. I feel it.
You know, it's really interesting because I found energy work before. I mean, I was still back in the corporate days when I discovered Reiki and healing touch, and I discovered it for the horses because I had a horse that had a foot issue, and so somebody was doing some healing touch, and I'm like, what the heck is that? And so I started, you know, going through all the certifications in that way back. I mean, this is like 30 years ago.
You did the healing touch work?
Yeah, I did the healing touch and I did Reiki.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And today I know that work shapes and informs my work with my clients because just as you're saying, you feel it and you intuit it differently. And so I love that you bring both of these components into it and really helping people tap back into their abundance story, if you will. And speaking of that, are there story? I mean, how do you I mean, I can go back. I had money stories and we always have money stories, right? They never go away. I think some of mine tied to you have to work hard and you have to, just work hard and then you'll get someplace. And that was one that I told myself forever and ever. And, you know, we all are doing our money work. What are the ways that you start your clients? Tell us a little bit about the stories that not the stories, the ways that you help people uncover their stories and break through.
Yeah, there's so many different tools in the tool set. So one of the questions, I actually just had a 3-day event. It was called Living the Limitless. And one of the first questions early on was, what is your first memory of money? You're like your money story. And I had some women that, I mean, they were flashing back way back, things that I had never thought of, because there is deep conditioning around money and abundance that begins at a very young age. And up until the age of 7, you can't filter it. You're like a sponge. And so you take it all in from parents and friends and family members and church groups and like all of it. And so that's always a great place to just start to investigate, like what are some of those early memories that you didn't have filters at the time, and how might that be informing your monetary decisions. So for example, like one of my early ones was, I'll never forget, there was and I won't say her full name even after all these years. There was a little girl who came over for a play date. She was one of my best friends, Rachel. And it was like the next day I realized there was no money in my piggy bank. And my piggy bank was all the money that my parents had given me, like family members had given, like all the money as a little girl, and literally the pig. And it was gone. It was gone.
Wow. Wow.
Right. And so it's kind of like, that idea of like, well, you better save, because it could be taken away. Like, even if you have money, it could be taken away like that. Right. And so the saver was born. Right. Savior, meaning not the savior, but like the saver is what I meant to say. So these little things play over time to really create a journey. And if you're not conscious of those early memories, sometimes it can be hard.
Yeah.
Another strategy would be to have somebody start by, there's a process that I do. It's called the Queen's Peace process. And I'll have them just kind of sit and breathe and feel really safe in their body. They have to feel safe to really explore this. So safety is the big component of the work that I do. And from that place of feeling like, okay, I'm tuned in, I'm breathing, and then say, okay, think of something about money that stresses you out. And as soon as they think of it, it triggers something in their body. And then we begin to explore that.
Where do they hold it?
Can we, like, can we release that energy without the story? Because sometimes the story is what I call the booby prize. Like, you don't have to know the story when someone can work with you energetically. So it's both. Sometimes we do story and sometimes we do energy work.
That's so cool. That's so, so, so cool. And you talk about building a house of abundance. What's that mean?
Yeah. So I had this vision, I don't know, a couple of years ago, and it literally is of a house. And so a house is made up of a square and then a triangle on top. So the square is the foundation of a house, and there's 4 pillars. So when we're talking about abundance, we're talking about time, and it all spells worth, by the way, WORTH. So the W is about wealth. The O for me is about oneness, which is at the top of the house, the pinnacle, connecting to something bigger than you, whether it's nature or God, whatever it is to you, it's that oneness. So that's wealth, oneness. R is for relationships, any relationship, our intimate partnership or relationship with our kid or a friend. Relationships, T is for time management, and H is for your health. So those are what I've discovered of, if we can keep an eye on the ball of those 5 areas, and we're not going through perfection. We're not going for that, ladies. We're going for progress, that we can be firing on all 5 cylinders and feel really abundant, no matter what's in our bank account.
Oh, so good. So, so good. I love that. And we're in this crazy time right now with political, with banking, with religion, everything's kind of all this tension happening. Yeah. What do you believe is at the root of this great change?
Yeah. Well, the good news is I think we're having a great awakening globally.
Totally.
Right. And what's happening is that twofold. So we have one part of it, which is we are individuating, which means is we're really discovering how we are different, because we are the drop and we are the ocean, and we are the drop and we are the ocean. So it's that individualization of the drop, like who am I as the drop that's unique, that is part of the great ocean. So we see this, and it can look like narcissism, and it can look like, being selfish. It's all about me, right? That's when it's in the negative. But in the positive, it's really a deep investigation of who am I? Who am I, and what am I here to contribute to the world? That's the individuation. And then in addition to that, we have the collective. And the collective is the structure that we've always known and has felt safe to lean into. So banking, politics, like church, like we're seeing a degradation of the collective because the old ways aren't working for us anymore. So it's almost like they have to collapse to build something new that works better for a more conscious global community. And we're seeing how something can happen in Boulder, Colorado, for example, that could have ripple effects on the other side of the world. Like, we're starting to really see how connected we are. Right. And we have things like the internet, but what happens if the internet goes down? So we're seeing both. And so I think as people become more awake and more individuated, then they can then consciously go create their own tribe. So gathering people that are like-minded, that have similar beliefs, to build out tribe or build out community from that awakened soul. So that's what I think is happening.
That's so beautiful. And I feel that. I feel really aligned to everything that you've just described there, because I think, it's like it wasn't working, right?
Yeah.
So we've known that it's not working. It's got to shift. It's got to break down. And what really evolves from that is lighter. It's more expansive. There's more freedom in it, and it's actually really exciting.
It is really exciting. It's like we've got the great, what are they saying? They had a name for it. I saw it recently, but it was like the great exodus, and many of them women exiting out of corporate, right? And yet there are
the Great Resignation.
the great resignation, but they
Yeah.
had like the her. They put like her or she in it anyway, because it is men and women.
Yes.
And one of the things I was going to say is that because I had a great conversation with a coach the other day. And she loves to work in corporate, and she comes from corporate, and then I work with more small business women, right? And I said, you know what? We need women in the corporate, right? And we need the women. So it's like the grassroots, and we need both ends of conscious women going in there and leading to have this new world that we get to create.
Yeah, I just did my podcast last week that launched last week. Was having the same very discussion because we need women at the corporate board tables, right? I mean,
Yes,
we can't
we
have
do.
them all leave. At the same time, I know that there's been 49 million people that left in 2021, I believe it was, left their corporate jobs. And a large percentage, I think 33% of them are going to start their own business. And more women than men have been in that exodus. And so that's great for businesses like yours and mine when we serve women entrepreneurs.
Yes,
That's a great
absolutely.
thing. But at the same time, we do need women staying in that. So, and I see so many amazing consultants and coaches who are really working with women who are making that decision to stay, and they're holding them, they're helping them do things in a different way. They're helping them see things in a different way. And to me, that's really exciting because I did come out of the corporate world 15 years ago, and it was brutal, and I think it's gotten even more brutal, and it was brutal in the environment. I'll put it that way. I loved what I did, and I got a lot of opportunities to travel the world to see things, and at the same time, it wasn't sustainable for us, and especially for women, I think, because I think that's what happened. I went through kind of almost a PTSD kind of thing after having left, because I had to heal. I had to make space for my body to heal, for my soul to heal from not being me, trying to fit myself into something else. So I get really excited when I see coaches and consultants really helping change and transform that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, there's I call it like a deconditioning process, right? And finding, okay, who is this girl? Who is this woman? And what does she really, really want? I love to, I often will use a clip from The Notebook. Do you remember the movie The Notebook?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was one of my favorites. I'm a rom-com, I love rom-com. And there's this moment when Noah's getting ready to have the girl leave him again after decades, right? The woman, the love of his life. And she's been conditioned by her parents and everybody, right? Because he's not the one they wanted her to be with. And she's getting ready to get married to the wealthy, well-to-do man. And he yells, well, what do you want? I don't care what your mom wants and your dad wants. And there's this scene. And I love to play it. And it's only a minute and a half. And that's the real question for women to really ask, what do you really want? What do you really want?
Yeah.
And what would
really
move your
listen.
soul?
Yeah, as versus just trying to be what you're expected to be, and
Exactly.
what the box that you think you should be in.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what's next for you? What are you most excited about? What's coming down your pipeline?
Yeah. So we do a prosperity happy hour, and it's really picking up first and third Tuesdays of the month as a place for women to gather and be in conversation. I know you do a lot of great conversational pieces, and so really having real conversations about money and being in business and all of that. I just am on the heels of my 3-day event, and I'm going, okay, when are we going to do it again? So I don't know if we'll wait for a full year. We'll see. Stay posted. And yeah, we have a new money quiz to really identify your money blocks. And so I'm just now starting to talk about that as a great resource for women, because how do you know where you are and to make changes without evaluating? Like, where are you right now? So of those 5 pillars that I talked about, that house of abundance, where do you rate in all 5 areas?
Yeah.
So we've
What's
got
strong,
that available.
what needs
What's
some love.
strong, what's weak, and like any like life coaches know, that to really identify where is the weak point, because if you put just a little bit of energy in the weak point, it can have global effects on everything, right? So yeah. So anyway,
Cool.
those are a couple things that we have
And
going.
where do people find those?
The easiest place would be to just go to my website, drkellyschuh.com. And Schuh is SCHUH, and I'm sure you'll have it in the notes. Yep. And that's where you can actually sign up. You can get reminders for our prosperity happy hours. They're free, and a great way to get to know our community and get support. And then the finding your money blocks is also a free quiz. Go check it out and see where you're strong, and celebrate yourself where you're strong. Yeah. And then take a look, get really real, really, it only takes about 5 minutes to take the quiz. So there you go.
Excellent. Okay, the final question I always close with are, what are 3 pearls of wisdom you'd like to leave with us today?
Ooh, didn't know that was coming. Let's see. Pearls of wisdom. Own your worth.
Yeah.
Own your worth. Second pearl of wisdom would be follow your joy. Follow your joy. Third pearl of wisdom would be what do you want? What do you really, really, really want? So even if you're a thriving female entrepreneur, there's often we'll maybe be really honest with ourselves, every now and then, like dig in there, maybe journal about it. Like, what do I really, really, really want that would make my heart sing? And so it could be as simple as, oh, wow, I'm going to go learn how to make mala beads. I have no idea, but yeah, those are the 3 things.
Excellent. Well, Dr. Kelly, it was so much fun to have this time with you and to get to hear more of your story and all the wonderful work you're putting out into the world. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You bet.